Welcome to day 2 of Circularity. Thank you all, live streamers, for joining us today. We are psyched for day 2 and a very bright keynote stage.
It is
Tell us
fun.
what's going to be happening. You are definitely excited backstage.
I am really excited.
Could not sit down.
I know. Day 2 of Circularity means only one thing, and that is startups to watch. So this is live pitches by the startups who have made it through all of the pre-rounds, and they get up there, and their whole heart and soul is into it. And the investors are on the stage too, and so you can watch their facial expressions. That's one of my favorite
Live
things
reactions.
to do. Who will then provide notes, and then we'll do live voting in the audience, and
Very
that
cool.
startup will walk away with dollars, confidence,
Ooh, dollars too.
and lots of applause.
That's very exciting. I actually really admire all the folks that get on stage because they're putting themselves out there, but also it's helpful for people in the audience to feel like that is the future that we
Yes.
can help support and tap into. And the company I work for, Reaply, we were a startup.
Yeah,
we are,
exactly.
Kind of still are.
Yeah, so you get it.
Yeah, and it's tough out there. So being in a room of supporters,
Yes.
who can also use your services, it's very very reassuring, but also it's a little daring too to be a bunch of hundreds of people.
I mean, it is. They're really going for it.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I appreciate too, because these are not just ideas
Yeah,
that they have. They have to be viable and in the market.
Real
and
businesses.
They're real businesses right now.
Yeah.
So what you see here is going to be big.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things I really like too, because it tells you what to pay attention to. And with the investor feedback, you'll hear why that is that there's a real business case for
why
it.
it's viable. That's exciting. Future
so-
podcast guests.
Yes. Well, we'll be back after the keynotes for interviews. See you then.
Please welcome CEO, Trellis Group, Eric Farrow.
Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of the keynotes at Circularity. As you just heard, I'm Eric Farrow, CEO of Trellis. 34 years ago, someone you may have heard of, Joel McCower, launched the Green Business newsletter. And a funny story, at our Green Business event this last February, Jill Dumaine, also very old school from Patagonia, told a story. And if you're younger, follow along with me. What used to happen is they would get an actual physical letter, and they'd put everybody's initials on the letter, and then you'd cross off your name, and you'd actually hand that letter to somebody else. So it just tells you how long we've been in this space. 18 years ago, Joel met a guy named Pete May, and they decided to turn GreenBiz into a for-profit to demonstrate the business value that exists in sustainability. And then 17 years ago, my good friend John Davies launched the GreenBiz Executive Network, because there weren't anybody else at companies who were doing the same job as chief sustainability officers at the time. And then 15 years ago, I came in as CEO, and I'm super grateful to Pete and Joel and John and the rest of the Trellis team, and all of you are here for letting me be here and do my job. So I came to the climate space from tech, and I really wanted to apply what I learned about disruption and innovation. And disruption is kind of a term that gets tossed around a lot, but to me, the simplest way to think about it is going from the few to the many, the people who are willing at first to see a different way to go. And I'm going to try and bring that to life here. So this is the pay attention part. If you were at the first Circularity in Minneapolis in 2019, please stand and stay standing. Okay, if you were at, then of course we had COVID, so then we went to Atlanta. If you were at Atlanta, please stand. Okay, if you were at either of the next 2 years, Seattle or Chicago, please stand. Okay, now the rest of you stand. So you're seeing this in action. This is going from the few to the many. So you can sit, and thank you for all being here and playing along with my little game. I will say, as you know, we're really in a moment, and it's really disheartening and destabilizing. But really, history, and the one benefit of being as old as I am, is that I've been through a lot of these cycles. And what I will tell you is progress is never linear. It's never a straight line. It's waves. It goes up and it goes down and it goes backwards. But eventually, progress does prevail. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had dozens of calls with CSOs about the moment, particularly post new administration. The good news is nobody I talk to is backing down from their climate goals. And in fact, nobody's really backing down from their diversity and inclusion, the S in ESG goals. They're just talking about it differently. I will say they're worried about being distracted by the headwinds and the looming legislation that maybe we got away from innovation. Maybe we got away from the reason we're here in the first place. And I fundamentally don't think that's true. I think you're all living proof that that's not true. I think innovation and progress is our identity, and I think we'll continue with that. So at Trellis, we think about a flywheel, and everything that we build is designed to support you in your endeavors and empower you to increase your impact. And we have 3 lines of business. You're obviously one of them. And by the way, on the digital media front, if you don't get Trellis Briefing, go right now and just Google Trellis Briefing and subscribe. It is the one daily thing you should read every day, well, during the week. And our mission is to really increase impact through this flywheel. And the area where we go the deepest is really with our network. And we changed the model a couple of years ago so that if you are a company that's part of the network, you can have unlimited number of people in that cohort with you, meaning you can engage your line of business partners, your colleagues, and you can think about that through geographies, through topics like circularity, and we just launched circles, so they're invite only, so you see CSO, but you can imagine a packaging circle, you can imagine a circular design. And so you might have heard about this. We're super excited in October to run 3 of our events together under Trellis Impact. Bloom around decarbonization, Verge around decarbonization, Bloom around biodiversity and nature, and Greenfin around sustainable finance. And I'm super excited to let you know that we are adding circularity to that at the Moscone Center in June next year. This brings 4 of the most important events in the space together to drive, scale, and impact, and all will remain their identity in their community. And finally, what I'll just leave you with is setbacks don't signal the end of progress. They're really the proving grounds for it, and you are all proof of that, so thank you. And with that, I'm going to bring on John Schmea, who I will tell you can talk worse than yesterday, so be gentle with him. Our fearless leader, John.
Yeah, so I still feel really good. It's amazing to feel this good and sound this bad at the same time. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Yeah, that's all right. I would have been a little louder, but my voice is super messed up. So I wanted to thank Eric. The announcement about Trellis Impact 26 is exciting, right? Like, the energy in the Moscone Center next June is going to be electric. I'm really excited about being able to build a lot of content on the edges of these spaces, so nature and biodiversity, circularity together, tech, all the things together in one space, I think is going to make a big difference in how we can curate content for everyone. Today I didn't bring Hedgie with me. It's not because he isn't still my traveling companion. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, you're probably very confused. He most definitely is, but today my remarks are not about observing the world, they're about acting within the world. And as a stuffed animal, he's incapable of acting, so he's resting back in the hotel room. Yesterday we talked about Umwelt, the reality that every being experiences the world through its own unique sensory portal. We explored how we as humans are capable of complex layered perception. In reality though, there's only a few parts of our perception that actually cause us to act urgently. And I want to talk about those today. I'm going to talk about 2 different causes for action. One of them is the most universally unwanted sense. Does anybody know what that is? What's the sense that we all hate? Pain. It is pain. Pain doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't require translation. It's immediate. It demands action. When you touch a hot stove, for example, you don't think about it. You don't reflect or analyze. You just pull your hand away. My experience is mostly with hitting my finger with hammers. Either way, pain causes you to act immediately. Well, the Earth is in pain right now. It's on the hot stove. In some ways, literally, because of the climate change we're causing and accelerating. That's too easy of a metaphor. But in some ways, figuratively, right, through biodiversity loss, land use collapse, pollution, growing scarcity across natural systems. Now, some companies have already begun to feel this pain and to act on it because of where they operate, what kinds of products they sell, what materials they rely on in their supply chain. But many, maybe most companies have yet to really start to feel this pain. They haven't experienced what we're inflicting on the planet or the costs we're passing down to future generations through our actions. Now, the second force that tends to, I can't believe how bad my voice is. The second force that tends to drive action is opportunity. As businesses, we can either react to experiences like pain, or we can look ahead and lead. Opportunity requires a different kind of perception. It requires seeing clearly, not just the next quarter, but the whole system. Not more sales, more dollars, less cost, but more value, more equity, less harm. Just like our sensory experience is shaped by biology, our sense of urgency is shaped by what we experience in the world, what we're exposed to, data, disasters, community needs, internal company pressure, the dreaded investor pressure. Even hope sometimes causes us to go for opportunity. Today we'll explore what motivates real, tangible action. What are companies and communities sensing that's prompting them to lead? What catalyzes a startup to build something bold? What compels a multinational to shift critical supply chains? And what gives someone the courage to push for circularity inside a legacy system? Because while a real-world hedgehog can't see everything, neither can we. Waste, emissions, injustice, many of the harms that we aim to fix are invisible in daily life, and so are many of the opportunities. The leaders you'll hear from today have learned to see these invisible harms and the problems with our current system, and more importantly, to intervene with creativity, with scale, and with conviction. Okay, let's bring up our next speakers. I'm really excited about this presentation because it requires all of us to get out of our comfort zone and think a little bit about how companies all over the economy need to reimagine their relationships with their customers. Joe McLeod is the author of 2 books, Ends and Engineering. He has thought deeply about the predicament that we as consumers are in when we have a thing that we no longer want. He's also the founder and chief engineer of the world's first business dedicated to customer endings and in consulting, and he's a seasoned veteran in product development. Andy Rubin is the co-founder and executive chairman at Trove, a pioneering branded re-commerce platform that currently supports more than 150 global brands. He was also the first chief sustainability officer at Walmart. So that's enough from me and my hoarse voice. Let's welcome Joe and Andy to the Circularity stage.
Hi everyone. So, we're here to talk about stories. Humans love stories. We've been telling stories for thousands of years. It used to be our primary way of communicating between generations, long before the printed press or the written word and the internet. And we still love telling stories through games and movies and books, even now. And we're so good at that storytelling that we can synthesize even quite complicated stories down to like a sentence, for example. So, for example, Jurassic Park. Scientists clone dinosaurs to create a theme park until they all break free.
Or Hansel and Gretel, 2 abandoned siblings in a dark woods who have to outwit a witch that wants to eat them.
Or A Christmas Carol, a lonely, angry man is visited by 3 ghouls over a course of a night to tell him about his past, his present, and his future, and to change his life forever. Now, with stories and loads of things that humans find really interesting, we create models around them. So we've done that with stories. The Greeks, very early on, created the 3-act play structure. And this was observations from poems and plays, and they thought that these could be broken down into 3 sections. The first act would tell you the context and introduce you to the individuals in the story. The second act would build that story through plot points and building up to a crescendo. And that third act would bring meaning and emotion to a conclusion. Some of our most favorite stories now follow a three-act structure. The Wizard of Oz is a famous story that we really enjoy looking at and witnessing again and again. It tells those really human stories of friendship, loyalty, challenge, and also tells a story about how each one of them didn't really need anything more. But there was another undercurrent story in each of those acts, which was, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
The products that we all sell, the products that brands sell, are stories. And brands are exceptionally good at Act 1. Let's take a look. Don't forget that was Yoga Pants. An incredible emotional Act 1. Let's take another one.
Greatness needs a lot of things. But it doesn't need an audience.
Oh, I still love that. That was Sneakers. And let's look at one more. Never stop exploring. This is outdoor gear. Brands are so good at setting up these emotional openings, at connecting with us on a human level. And now let's talk about where brands go after that incredible buildup, right? Get ready. Roughly 70% of the shoes and clothing end up in landfills. Wow, that's emotional.
So we are great at doing that first act, and we over-index on that. We've got such a lot of meaning and purpose in that first act, and then our brands just drop off a cliff, abandoning those consumers. And there's such a gigantic opportunity space to add meaning and emotion in those second two acts, because stories need balance. A good story, as the consumer, the reader, the viewer comes into that story, they go through layers of meaning, understanding different aspects of that story. And then they see that story unfold, and then they come back out through those layers of meaning and emotion. And we need to think more about how we tell these type of stories in our products and brands.
So what would it look like if the products brands sold took us through the entire story, just as Joe was talking about? There aren't a lot of examples out there, which is amazing, but there are a few. So take a look at 3 different Apple ads as we've parsed them into Act 1, 2, and 3.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC.
Ready to get started?
Well, not quite. Got a lot to do. What's your big plan?
I might make a home movie or maybe create a website, try out my built-in camera. I can do it all right out of the box, so what about you?
Hello, I'm a Mac. And I'm a PC.
And I'm a Mac genius.
A what?
Oh, CPC, every Apple store has a thing called a Genius Bar. It's a place where people like her will answer any questions you have about your Mac.
Like if you want to go wireless, you want to transfer your files over to one.
You've done great things with your iPhone. But at some point, you'll be ready for something new. You can easily trade it in with Apple, so it can be refurbished.
We've been looking at those 3 clips a lot, and there are clearly opportunities. But if you noticed, Act 1 starts with where the technology and the computer fades away, right? And that theme follows all the way through the 3 acts, just as Joe was showing on a slide, the narrators, etc. Right now, these are opportunities for brands, right? Brands can elevate through these stories, through the products, and elevate the story. But where we're going with agentic commerce and other things on the horizon, these are not just going to be opportunities, these are a necessity. If this is a topic that you want to talk more about interactively in a workshop, Joe and I will be running that workshop at 1:30 today. We're joined by Nellie Cohen, who I don't know where Nellie is, Patagonia, branding, 10 years, launched Worn Wear, advising brands since, and Chris Riley, who is here, spent a majority of his career at Wieden and Kennedy. There's Chris. And Chris worked on the Nike ad and the Apple ads we were just looking at. And so Chris later then went to work for Apple in strategy and now Studio Riley. So please join us. We are incredibly excited about the role that brands can play in looking at the full life cycle of the product and telling the full story, not just the opening. And how when brands do that across the product, that can elevate the brand itself. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage, Chief Content and Business Officer, Trellis Group, Hana Kajimara.
All right, I'm going to introduce Deanna in a second, but first, I'll set the stage for this conversation. Yesterday, up here, we heard a lot about visions for the future and thinking about what's possible and not being limited by what is possible today. One thing that stuck with me was this metaphor around hardware and software, and how if humans are the hardware, we're not inherently bad or wrong. The problem is the software. But also the software is not just a bug, it's a whole operating system that we are trying to work within, and us especially, at least Deanna and I have chosen to work on sustainability through business, and with that have a career full of tension and trade-offs. And so this conversation is about where that vision meets reality, and how do we hold the vision of what's possible, but not be beholden to it or paralyzed by it. So Deanna, my guest up here today, we met back in 2019 when we both worked at B Corp's other companies. I worked at a shoe startup in San Francisco called Allbirds, and Deanna worked at Danone North America, a food company, where she led that company to become the largest B Corp, the largest certified B Corp at the time. Let's give that a round of applause.
Thank you.
And I was always a fangirl of Deanna, even long before we became friends, because she was able to take something that seemed at least improbable and make it possible. And 3 years, Deanna moved over to Crocs, so she joined me in the footwear industry, where she became the company's first chief sustainability officer. And I remember when you stepped into that role and you were learning about a totally new industry, some of our early phone calls where you were kind of thinking about and grappling with the differences between food and shoes. And maybe you could share a bit about that, what you noticed, and how that informed your sustainability strategy.
Great. Well, hi, everyone. I like to think that sustainability holds true across industries. The issues of sustainability are the issues: climate, waste, water, consumption, agriculture. And as we think about moving from food, where consumption is the goal, we want people to get hydrated, to meet their daily protein consumption, to have probiotics for a healthy gut biome. And we focus a lot on the upfront, agriculture, inputs, what goes into the food, the processes, and then we're left with the packaging. When you move over to fashion and footwear, not only are you looking at the inputs, the supply chain, the upfront, and the packaging, but the product is what you're left with. It's not consumed in the same way, and it's what hangs around. So the inherent challenge of consumption and waste in fashion and footwear is probably the biggest difference and the biggest transformation, and that speaks a lot to how we have to adapt our mindsets to circular economy and creating solutions for that.
Yeah, I remember one of the best parts of working for a clothing company is that people will come up to you and say, oh my God, I love Allbirds. And then they'll say, and I have 10 pairs. And like something in me would kind of crack every time that happened. But I also knew that it was so important, but it was the question that I always feared from journalists or customers because I didn't have a good answer. Shoes are really hard. They have 20 plus, well, in most cases, like 20 plus components made of many different materials, and you wear them on your feet, so they get really beat up over their lifetime. And I thought it was so interesting, Crocs is different in a lot of ways because it uses fewer components, more mono material. How did you know where to begin in setting up a circularity program at a shoe company when that doesn't really exist yet?
Yeah. So Crocs are definitely an interesting use case from a materials perspective. So we have one primary material, which we call Croslite, which is our blend that makes Crocs, made from primarily fossil fuels, but it's 80% of the materials we buy. So talk about, is it clear where to start? How do you know where to start? There's sometimes some obvious wins. Where do you spend the most money? What's the material you focus on? When we think about the shoes themselves and sort of footwear circularity, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation helps lay out sort of the principles. Design better materials in. Keep your product in use for as long as possible at its highest and best use, and then design for end of use. And what happens next? And so at Crocs, we've taken that approach to heart in a few ways. So one is material. So I mentioned primarily fossil-based. Well, there are alternatives to that. So we introduced a few years ago bio-based materials made from plants. Biocircular materials made from plant waste from other industries, so used cooking oil is the best case example that we have. And we started introducing that into our footwear across our entire portfolio of shoes. This last year, we reached 25% biomaterial across our shoes. And it's not just about offsetting the sources and the resources that go into the shoe, it's also around net zero, emissions reduction, and from that bio-alternative material, we've seen a 10% reduction per pair of shoes. In some places in the world, I say 10%, and people are like, okay, that's incremental, but among friends here, I think we all know that if one innovation can get you a 10% reduction, that's pretty significant. So we continue to think about materials in and innovating those materials and finding more sustainable sources. Right now, oftentimes those come at a premium and they require investment. So how do we think about that? The second piece is how we engage consumers, both in that story, so how we continue to tell the stories of the product itself and the materials, but also where does the waste end up? It ends up in the hands of the consumer. So thinking about take back, thinking about when you are done with your pair of shoes at the end of their use case, did you outgrow them and they're still wearable, or are they worn and we need to find something else to do with those materials? So at Crocs, a year ago, May, we launched Take Back at 183 stores, so all stores across the US and Canada. And we started taking our shoes back, and then we sort them. If they're still wearable, they go to a nonprofit called Souls for Souls, and anything that's wearable gets put through their 4 Opportunity program and goes to social impact, entrepreneurial and development opportunities, a new business case. If they're not wearable, they go for reprocessing. So that's deconstruction, grinding, sorting, and then we look at the material. So the material still has value, and how do we make sure that we're creating that value so we can be offsetting the investment we're making in other parts of the business, like those biomaterials? Sometimes we think about circularity as steps in one loop, but I think expanding the view and really thinking about the different loops and how they come back together is also a really critical piece. So through that Take Back program, we were able to then take 25% recycled content back into a shoe called the Keep It Going clog and offer it back to consumers. And we're trying this really cool local model where we take back in country and we reproduce and reuse in country, and then we're offering a consumer message of this was made better thanks to you. The more you participate, the more we can make it better. So not making it just about the business opportunity, but about the consumer engagement opportunity. And it's not just a solution for consumer waste. There's waste in our businesses, warehouse waste, damages in retail, and funneling that all back through a reuse system has been enabling and unlocking cost savings. So that's really great. So thinking about circularity and the elements, the components, and what works for you is really at the core of what we're attempting to do and attempting to scale.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a lot. You're doing a lot. And at the same time, it's a lot of what you're saying is you're trying to broaden the definition of circularity and circular economy beyond maybe the platonic ideal of this closed loop system where everything stays within your supply chain. Do you ever get pushback that you're not doing enough or it's not true circularity?
Yeah, I think there is, we heard a little bit about this yesterday. A lot of the solutions haven't even been invented yet. There's part of me as a sustainability consumer, I want that perfect closed loop. I think a lot of us do. But the reality of the systems we are today, that closed loop can really create limitations in the way you sell your business case internally, in the way you build your story, and the limitations that you're maybe unknowingly putting around the program because you're designing for a future that we don't necessarily have all the systems and tools in place yet. So I think being super pragmatic around that transformation and welcoming the open loop in service of the closed loop as opposed to focusing on the closed loop and missing all these other opportunities on the way is really important.
Yeah, it sounds like you're advocating for an idea of progress over perfection or doing something rather than doing it perfectly.
Yes, and Hannah and I talked a lot about this idea. How many of you have used the phrase progress over perfection? How many of you have been in a room at a sustainability conference where that phrase is used? Like every hand in the room up. So when did we introduce the concept of perfection into sustainability? When has perfection... I don't use the word perfection in anything in my life as a mother, as a worker. I am looking for transformation. I am looking for what does good look like? Where is the ambition and what's the vision? We keep fooling ourselves into this idea that there is perfection in this system. And we even heard yesterday, like, nature is perfect because of its imperfection. And what we can learn from that should be guiding us as opposed to this idea of a perfect closed loop or perfection in this way. So I encourage us all to think about progress, not perfection. Take that out of the loop and really look at where we can make the progress that feels good, that fulfills, and that is making meaningful impact in service of progress, not in service of this unattainable perfection.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. I also think that that is part of the software, is like, perfection is the goal in a lot of cases. I spent a lot of years trying to unlearn that perfection is the goal and trying to embrace the idea of progress. But I think like oftentimes I hear progress over perfection and I think I kind of have a negative reaction because I think sometimes it can be used to justify doing less or not moving fast enough. I love it when it comes from you because I know what your standard is, and within this community, we have a really high standard. How do you know when something is good enough? It may be not as perfect or the best, but it's better.
Yeah, the words that come to mind are authenticity and credibility, and then working at the intersection of impact. Is it making an impact, and is it a positive or negative impact? Is it a good enough positive impact? Is it an impact that's in service to the transformation? And then thinking about visibility. If we can't figure out how to tell better stories in sustainability to keep that emotional connection, as we just heard from Joe and Andy, it becomes harder to make the business case when you're in a consumer-oriented corporate sustainability role. So really thinking about all of the stakeholders and how we meet our stakeholders on the journey as we're imagining what circularity looks like for better models of consumption. I think the other thing is we can't do it alone. And if we flipped all of the things we know how to do today for Crocs and actually figured out circularity for our business, we are just one of many, many footwear brands in the industry. A lot of shoes, about 23 billion pairs of shoes are produced each year globally, and about 1 billion of those end up in landfill each year. At the same time, 500,000 people are without shoes. put all that together, we have not only consumption challenges, we have distribution challenges, we have use case challenges, and we have waste challenges. So if we think about what we can do at Crocs, we are not getting the world, the system, anywhere. And so that's where we really look at how do we solve as an industry and how do we solve things together. So we have a network called the Footwear Collective, which is a whole bunch of footwear brands, a lot of friends in the room, who are working together to look at systems change around circularity. And we're taking the learnings we have at Crocs of what we've been able to do with our more mono-material approach and helping, as everyone is kind of taking their own learnings into that system and looking at how do we systems change the footwear industry together. So the complexity that Hannah knows so well from sneakers, all the different pieces, that we can be solving those and looking at it from a materials engagement, consumer engagement, and then sort of system-wide approach.
Yeah, so different levers for different aims. So you've talked about impact as one criteria, visibility as the other, and then I know there's a third that is just as important. Can you tell us about that?
I think about this concept of collaboration and transformation, and I also think a lot about what we as individuals in corporate sustainability, in a really challenging global context, in a really challenging local context, bring. And it really starts and ends with intention and courage. The system is not where it needs to be. And so thinking about the steps we can take, the courage that we can put in each of the steps, and I think it was Asha who said yesterday, is it 100 steps or is it a leap? It's all progress moving us in the direction we need. And so when we think about the role that we play with a lot of headwinds facing us as corporate sustainability, really thinking about what lights us up and how to prioritize that within our business, because that's going to inspire our stakeholders, our CEOs, our business partners, and help us take those 100 steps, which I think we should feel really good about today, every step we take.
Yeah, I think Bill said yesterday, we have to be having the most fun. So that's a goal too.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Deanna, for all the work that you do. Join me in thanking Deanna.
Thank you.
And it's my pleasure to now welcome to the stage Brian Lewis, who directs our Emerging Leaders program, a program that is near and dear to all of our hearts and really exciting. Thank you so much. Thank you.
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing today? Doing good? Need some energy? Need to pick me up? I got just a thing for you. My name is Brian Lewis, as was mentioned previously, and I am humbled, honored, and many other things to lead our Emerging Leaders program with Trellis Group. Our Emerging Leaders program has been around since 2017, and it's a program that engages, supports, mentors, platforms, and resources the next generation of sustainability professionals of color. And I've been going around this conference doing facilitated a couple of sessions, and I've been asking a lot of people, what inspires you? And on that note, I guess I have to ask myself that same question. And what inspires me is the question of how do we not only facilitate inclusion within our sustainability industry, but how do we lead from inclusion into belonging? How do we facilitate belonging in our sustainability industry? And our Emerging Leaders program is Trellis's effort to expand opportunity for underserved professionals in this industry. And I'm really excited to introduce our Emerging Leaders for this cohort, because this cohort has an amazing group of young professionals who are all in the front right here. Some folks who are even looking for jobs right here and right now. We've built a relationship, we built a network of over 300 emerging leaders, emerging professionals of color, many of which continue to engage with our initiatives and our conferences, and come back as speakers, come back as facilitators, come back as mentors and guides for future generations. And many of you all have had an opportunity either to connect with them one-on-one or to attend our Emerging Leaders Breakfast this morning to really get an insight into their dreams, their goals, and their aspirations, and then also to mentor them yourselves. And so I'm very proud of the way that the Trellis community continues to engage with the next generation. But with that being said, I'd be remiss not to really hype up our emerging leaders. We got people like Arata. Arata's been my friend for almost a decade, and it's really amazing to see the transition and growth from a young professional of color who works in education, is now leading her own sustainability initiative called the Chip Bag Project, making difference for many folks in the city of Detroit and beyond. We got people like Saxon. Saxon leads his own solar installation company and consulting company, and he's doing amazing work not just with his solar installation, but with indigenous communities and making sure indigenous communities have an opportunity to see themselves in their environment. We got folks like Trey, who's a sustainability director at a packaging company and leads a team of people to make sure that packaging is not only sustainable, but safe. We got people like Daisy, who works at Pepsi. We got people like Miranda, who's an amazing scientist and interested in microplastics and technology. We got, I'm on stage, I'm gonna blank. We got 3 professors in our cohort, people that are leading fashion, people that are leading textiles, people that are leading initiatives that are making a change not only for our community, but for the sustainability industry broadly. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask them to stand. And please, Circularity, can you give us a warm welcome for our amazing emerging leaders, not just of Circularity 25, but all of our emerging leaders, if you're around the space. It is really, really important, you all can sit down, I don't want to make y'all stand up the whole time. It's really, really important that we not just talk about it, but really be about it in terms of supporting the next generation. And for that, I'm actually really, really excited because we have a conversation with 2 amazing, amazing people that I think is a really relevant and nuanced conversation that we're going to have about workforce reentry. How do we support, okay, we talked about the next generation, but how do we support folks who are coming from troubled situations and looking to find employment and opportunity through workforce development within the circular economy? And I'm really excited to bring 2 amazing people to the stage. We got, first and foremost, John Williams, who's the founder of Wastewell Composting. He's leading his own composting and community education initiative in Pennsylvania and Delaware. And we got Jeanette Felix, who's a navigator with Homeboy Recycling. And she helps folks in troubled situations find their way into the circular economy and navigate into jobs and employment. Please welcome both of them to the stage. All right, so before we get started, I just want to come clean. We're a little nervous. I imagine you might be too if you was on stage and 1,000 people were looking directly at you. So I'm wondering if you can give us a little bit of a vote of confidence. Are y'all ready for this conversation? All right, cool. We locked in, let's do it. So part of the purpose of this conversation is to really understand the experience of those who are re-entering the workforce from troubled situations, from incarceration, and understand not just the barriers, because we have an understanding of that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but also the opportunities that can exist for re-entering workers to find success within the circular economy. And part of the reason why we're having this conversation is because re-entering workers face significant barriers to finding sustainable work. You're talking about lack of education, you're talking about lack of training, you're talking about the desire and need for additional work experience, and the main point of what we're going to try to express is that the circular economy can be a conduit and a bridge for that gap, and be a place, a safe place for not only inclusion but belonging for those who are re-entering the workforce from troubled situations. And so with that being said, I want to introduce our folks on stage here. Well, these are your stories to tell, so I'm going to try to set you up with a quick question here. So maybe John first. John, you've been through a program that you can talk about in just a second, but can you describe the program that you've experienced, how it helped you navigate your life re-entering the workforce, and then a little bit about what felt most valuable about that program and initiative for you.
My name is John Williams. The program that I was a part of was the composting program for Philadelphia prisons. There they pretty much help you learn about sustainability. We used to pick up food scraps from over 8,000 inmates and hundreds of guards daily, and we'd bring it back to the facility at one of the prisons. On site they had a composting field where we pretty much it was set up for us to just dump the food scraps inside the field, and we used forced air. So they taught us how to break the material down the proper way, the right temperatures, and things like that. So the value that I poured out of the program was like it was like people. I met Ms. Laura. Her name was Laura Cassidy, sustainable manager of the prisons. She pretty much the effort to help. She just wanted to help people, So that made me want to learn more about sustainability and yeah.
I love it. I love it. And so it sounds like what made a significant impact for you not only was that program, but was the special touch from, can you remember?
Laura Cassidy, yeah.
Cassidy? Laura?
Laura, yeah.
That Laura was able to invest in you and see something that obviously you were able to kind of return in kind, and that led you on the pathway to now you owning your own composting company. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. So upon my release, I worked for a composting company called Bennett Compost. Shout out to Tim Bennett. He helped me out. And going through the business, I learned, he taught me more about composting, and I was able to learn the business side of things as well. So I was working there for 4 years, and an opportunity came where someone wanted to part ways with Wastewell, and I was able to. She interviewed 5 of us. 5 different people, and I was, she chose me to, sell to, and, and that was in 2023. So we are now going into our 3rd year, and it's been going well since. I
love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm really also excited to talk to Jeanette as well, because Jeanette, you work with Homeboy, who does some amazing work out in California, working with many different people, but helping with workforce training and support systems for people who are in need of those things. Can you talk a little bit about your role as a navigator, and then how your experience in the program led to where you are today and what was most valuable?
So my role as a navigator is to sort of the best way I could describe it is a teacher, and I just help them, guide them through their own troubles and tribulations of when they get out of prison, if they're addicts, if they're through domestic violence, things that sort of hinder us through life that we don't know how or we weren't taught. So being a navigator at Homeboys, it's a pleasure, because it teaches me, and as I'm teaching somebody, I'm being taught myself to stay sort of humble. Homeboys is one of the largest gang interventions in the world. So we help people with getting out of prison, having addictions, like I said, domestic violence. So we have different resources. We have over 50 different classes that we provide for them. We have our different empires. We have the bakery. We have recycling. I was moved from Homeboys to recycling, and I really didn't have the understanding of, electronics, or, when they used to say to recycle it, I didn't understand it. And but when I was moved there, it was really inspiring, and we're not any different. I look at it because when we walk through Homeboys, doors were sort of broken down, and as we bring in pallets of different things from different companies that recycle, we clean them up, and we get them ready, and it's not any different. So that was a pleasure, because I really didn't have the understanding of recycling, so it gave me a different outlook of what works for just in reality in life, or our planet.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm hearing from you is that you yourself have been through situations, and now through Homeboy getting your training, you're now able to impact others. Can you talk a little bit about maybe just what it feels like for someone going through the program to have someone to look up to that also has kind of been where they've been? Like, is that an important and valuable part of that program, or what would you say to that?
I do. I think it's a very important, because I went to Homeboys in 2010. I've always known about Homeboys, but I really didn't I wasn't ready at the moment. Mm-hmm. I didn't have an understanding of, So when I went in 2010, I was a trainee, and I went to culinary school. They sent me to culinary school. I went through the bakery. Everything that they had to offer, I went, so I thought, sort of what society wanted. And, but I sort of had to dig deeper into myself, and that's where Homeboys came. Those were the classes. They had DV, they had education, and I have 3 kids of my own, so as they were growing older, that's one thing that I wanted them to do, is finish their high school. Like, if you choose not to go to college, I can't force you, but your high school. So how was I able to tell my kids if I didn't even have it? So with Homeboys, they were able to help me in certain things that I lacked. I had tutoring, so it just helped me build me as a different person with all those resources. Like I said, we have the bakery, we have the cafe, we have recycling, we have threads, we have all these different things. So when we prepare them, you start off, and then you sort of graduate into a different field, and then we'll prepare you into the real world. And if that's what you want to do, recycling, like to me, I really didn't have the understanding of recycling, or apparel, or just cooking. Yeah, we know cooking, but a lot of people don't know how to cook. A lot of people have never been taught how to throw trash out, Nobody's ever guided them or even shown them, so that's what I got from Homeboys.
That sounds very, very valuable. And you mentioned high school and the graduating of high school and going to college and wanting to make sure at the very least they graduate high school. It brings me to a point of, especially for prisons, 54%, excuse me, 54% of young adults in prison have yet to receive a high school diploma or a GED, while at the same point, 78% of jobs require a high school diploma or above. And so there's a gap there. And while there's a gap there, at the same time, John, speaking to your experience, young adults who are incarcerated are most likely of any group to participate in educational and vocational training while being incarcerated, and are where demand far exceeds supply of those resources. So there's many more people that are trying to get into those initiatives but are not able to. So I just want to ask really, really quickly, for folks in the audience who might be trying to think of ways that they can pitch in or give impact or understand, what are like 1 or 2 suggestions that you would give for anyone who either is at a company or has resources to help support not only people like you, or not only you, but people like you? Do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I say, so I'm in a position at Bennett Compost where, I hire the collectors that, I went and I can say I hired about 3 or 4 ex-felons, and, they've been working for, some been working for 3 years, some been working for 2 years. Like, they've been doing great. So I say just go to the prisons and just give them a try, Like I'm a next felon, and somebody gave me a try, and I'm gonna make the best opportunity of the situation. So
love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Jeanette, do you have any words of wisdom for someone?
I would say as well, I just feel that overall you have to sort of look out for your community. Your community is a big part of what is going to build you and build everybody, and you have to have in somewhat faith and trust, because the same way when you built whatever you built, you had to have faith and trust, and with your community, it's gonna take you a long way.
I love it. Thank you so much, both of you all. Give them a warm round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Brian. That was awesome. Thank you, Jeanette. All right. Whew. That was amazing. Before we bring up our next speaker, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for the event. As I mentioned yesterday, our sponsors are all over this event, speaking in the expo hall, everywhere in between. We're so thankful to have you all supporting this event. A lot of the things that happen here would not happen without our sponsors. I'd also like to thank all of our convening and community partners. Again, they help promote this event, they bring people to the event, and they also help us plan content. And with just 2 people on our small circularity team here at Trellis, it's amazing to have all of these experts throughout the space that we can lean on to help us plan content. Lastly, I want to thank our media, Startups to Watch, and sustainability partners. A lot of the sustainability partners are what helps us reduce emissions, stay zero waste to the best of our ability, trace our impact for these conferences, have reusable cups. All the things that you see around this space are because of our sustainability partners. Also, I mentioned this yesterday, we really want your feedback about this event, and a survey will be sent out to your email, but it's also available in the app. And yesterday I teased that if you fill it out, you're going to be entered into a fun prize. One lucky survey respondent will get a ticket to Trellis Impact 26 in San Francisco next year. Which I think is going to be a great event with a bunch of really smart people under one roof in San Francisco. All right, next event on the keynote stage. I'm really excited to hear from our 5 Startups to Watch finalists today about their innovations, their companies, and what they're bringing to the circular economy space. So without further ado, and so I don't have to say anything else, I'd like to welcome our Trellis' own Director of Climate Tech Innovation, Jake Mitchell, to the stage.
Thank you, John. Hello, Circularity, and welcome to Startups to Watch at Circularity 25. You just heard from John. I'm Jake Mitchell. I'm the Director of Climate Tech Innovation with Trellis Group. Circular economy entrepreneurs aren't just building businesses. They're reinventing entire industries. From rethinking design to creating new sustainable feedstocks, they're rewriting the rules of what's possible and really changing the way we do things. These founders, I have so much admiration from them. They take so much bold vision and courage to start what they've done. These are new companies commercializing, getting traction in the market, funding customers, building their own teams, and all in the spirit of making our communities more healthy, our planet as well, and simultaneously taking care of the bottom line. Are you ready for Startups to Watch at Circularity 25? I think our startups deserve a little bit more love than that. So I'm gonna ask you again, are you ready for Startups to Watch? All right, that's more like it. So you will hear, this is how it's gonna work. You'll hear from 5 entrepreneurs, each who have 2.5 minutes to pitch. After the 2.5 minutes, we will cut their mic because the show must go on. So it's not a technical glitch, it's just what we gotta do. And after the pitches, I'll have a conversation with two industry experts, two amazing investors who I'll introduce in a second. During that conversation, you'll be able to vote for who you think will have the greatest impact in accelerating the circular economy. So you'll do that through the app, and I'll walk you through the instructions. So ultimately, it'll be up to you to determine the winner. Heads up that only folks in this room in person can vote. Live stream, you can't vote, but thank you for tuning in. We love you. Without further ado, I'm excited to welcome our two esteemed industry experts to the stage. Please join me in welcoming Ali Bryan, investor at Closed Loop Partners, and Ginger Rothrock, senior director at HG Ventures. What's up? Welcome. Welcome. Take a seat here. So, without further ado, let's get into our first pitch. First up, we have the CEO of Macro Cycle, Stuart Pena.
Today, over 85% of all the plastics and textiles globally produced ends up being disposed of or incinerated, resulting in 6% of all global CO2 emissions. A linear economy that is poised to grow to over $1 trillion, and we don't have the technologies to resolve this crisis. The predominant technology of the industry of mechanical recycling is unable to remove colors or contaminants or produce the high-quality output required for the industry. The alternative technologies are too energy-intensive and are reliant on a pathway that requires a green premium in the petrochemical industry, meaning it cannot be fully decarbonized. But Microcycle can resolve all of these dilemmas. Through our patented Solvogenesis platform, we're able to take a significantly more energy-efficient pathway that does not require a green premium as we bypass the petrochemical industry entirely. Through the intermediates of Microcycle, we're able to produce a high-quality product that the industry is ready to adopt. How does our platform work? Well, we start with a cheap and dirty feedstock from the industry, in this case, PET and blended polyester waste. And using our proprietary solvent, we can remove the impurities often found in these waste streams. We can then, using the same solvent, extract the colors and contaminants found in the plastics and conduct our chemistry to produce the high-quality plastic that can serve as a drop-in solution for the textile and packaging industry, enabling truly a circular economy around these materials. And we can do this with 80% less energy compared to traditional means of plastic production. And the remaining 20% can be fully electrified with renewable energy to achieve recycling with zero carbon emissions. And we're ready to scale up fast. With the capital that we have raised, we're now going to be using this to scale up our operations by 50% and our manufacturing already by 100 times to start producing products on a larger scale to validate with the brands that our product is truly a drop-in solution that requires no green premium for adoption. My name is Stuart Pena, and I used to work at ExxonMobil's first recycling facility. And after meeting my co-founder at MIT, we're excited for this journey that we have embarked on. But we're still going to need help. So if you can help us, please connect, as together we can create a cleaner, more circular future for everyone today.
Well done.
Thank you, Stuart. Next up, we have Rashmi Prakash, CEO and founder at Aruna Revolution. Let's give it up.
Everyone. Okay, do I just stand here?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Rashmi Prakash, and I was on my period one day and felt frustrated as I threw yet another pad into the garbage. Why was I having to pick between my well-being and the well-being of the planet? When I looked into it, it's not just menstrual products, but diapers, a lot of disposable hygiene products that are ending up in landfills, used for a couple of hours, but sitting in them for over 500 years, with over 600 billion of them ending up in landfills, and they also contain harmful chemicals. This is a problem that we all face, and it's a result of the materials that are being used in the products. So that's why we decided that it was time for a revolution. At Aruna, we've created compostable, toxin-free, high-performance natural fibers that we extract from local agricultural residuals. What we do is we work with farmers, get their byproducts, and put it through our proprietary process to put them into menstrual pads for now, but can be used for a variety of other products. Our feedstock is variable, so we can use virtually anything from corn, soy, canola, hemp, even orange peels, banana peels, and we turn them into clean and soft fibers. And our products take just 30 days to compost. We've worked with compost manufacturers right from the beginning, so we can put them directly into green bins. And they're better than the compostable and biodegradable products on the market as well. We can use these fibers for a variety of different products, such as, beyond the menstrual application, diapers, maternity, medical, but we've also had organizations reach out to use them for fashion, for shoes, for even hydroponic systems. So the application is really limitless. And our fibers are actually 300% more absorbent than the fibers on the market today, and are also made from agricultural residuals and have a significant number of applications. Compared to cotton, which uses a significant amount of resources, bamboo, which is actually pulped down from using chemicals and extruded into fibers, our fibers are made out of agricultural residuals and are high-performing and don't add into monocropping or soil degradation. In addition to that, this is a massive industry, a $211 billion global industry that we're tapping into. And we're starting with our Aruna pads, but going into licensing opportunities. And we've raised 1.5 million so far and are raising 5 million right now to start the era of circular hygiene. We've got a great team, and thank you for your time. We hope you join our revolution.
Thank you, Rashmi. Up next, all the way from Bogota, Colombia, we have Jorge Correa, CEO at eCloud.
Hi. 20 years ago, with our team, we founded the first Colombian company to develop mobile apps and automate commercial processes in top CPGs and retails in Colombia. And with our clients, we saw what happened with unsold food and how, when, and why millions of tons of edible food are thrown away in points of sales, distribution centers, and production plants countrywide while still edible. And this situation fits into an enormous problem. The 40% of all the food produced in the world is thrown away, while 1 in 8 people go to bed hungry. It costs the food industry $2.6 trillion a year, and the environment even more, because gases, 10% of the greenhouse gases. This inspired us to create eCloud, an AI and analytics-based platform that helps the entire food ecosystem to redistribute food waste on a massive scale, to reduce food waste and combat hunger. We are automating the donation process without touching the food, without regulatory friction, saving a lot of money to the industry, generating tax benefits, and charging the industry for each point connected to our platform, and monetizing our analytic data segmented by interest. Data focus on sustainability, data focus on social, economic, and environmental impact, and using Gen AI to help our clients to understand the data and improve many processes. As a result, we have created a globally focused model, growing 5x in the last year, zero churn since 2020. A model will reach 50 countries in the coming 5 years, supported by local governments and global allies that right now are accelerating our go-to-market. We launched our model in the COVID crisis. So far, we have redistributed more than 46,000 tons of unsold food, equivalent to more than 100 million meals, mitigating the emission of more than 110 million of kilos of CO2, saving the food industry more than $40 million. 100 million meals that right now are showing the world that by using exponential technologies to redistribute and circularize unsold food wasted today, we can eradicate the hunger of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. Next up, we have Curran Hughes, president and co-founder at Renegade Plastics.
Hi, my name is Curran Hughes, and I'm the president and co-founder of Renegade Plastics, which is based right here in Colorado. And we are building a circular economy for coated textiles. Plastic-coated textiles is a $62 billion global industry that accounts for 10% of annual plastic production. And these materials are used in everything from sports equipment to agriculture. But coated textiles are doing immense harm to both people and planet because they are unrecyclable, they are toxic, and they are carbon intensive. Meanwhile, circular business models are becoming ever more essential to stay ahead of the competition, while hundreds of organizations and companies have banned the chemicals used to make coated textiles. Renegade's vision is a circular economy for coated textiles, enabling more sustainable business models in industries where it wasn't previously possible. And we can do this because of our revolutionary textiles, which are made out of one type of plastic, as opposed to legacy coated textiles, which are made of mixed materials. And our products are designed to perform as well, if not better than legacy materials, without using PVC, PFAS, or phthalates. And they are also designed to be mechanically recycled, therefore making it easier to partner with existing recycling networks. Our business model is really simple. We make innovative textiles, which we sell to companies who make innovative products. But we go further by partnering with our customers to design circular solutions for their products. We're ready to scale. We have production capacity of up to 16 million yards of fabric per year, and we are already supporting customers in industries such as tarps, reusable packaging, sports equipment, and banners. Our advantage is that this is a proven product. We're already established in 5 market segments, and customers trust us to work with them in designing circular solutions. And we also have performance benefits over legacy materials in that our products are 40% lighter weight. They are also more UV stable and more chemically resistant. We received an Advanced Industries grant to establish a manufacturing facility in Colorado, which will better enable us to reincorporate our materials into our products. And in parallel, we've generated $1 million of revenue through pilots with 40 B2B customers. We have a great team bringing experience from consumer goods as well as advanced materials manufacturing. Contact me if you want to become a Renegade.
For our last pitch of today, we have Vika Kanar, co-founder and CEO at Refresh Global.
Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria Kana. I'm CEO and co-founder of Refresh Global, and I will now take you on a very quick but very impactful journey from this textile waste, which we know how to turn into very high quality raw materials for so many different industries, over 14 different industries. But first, a quick story. I was recently scrolling just before going to bed, a little secret, and then I saw this post, and you know what struck me the most? That still, every single day, 86,000 trucks dump our clothes into landfills. How crazy is that? It's really about time we change that, because you know what else? This translates into $500 billion, which are being lost every year, because we just don't have yet scalable solutions of how to treat the majority of the textiles out there, which are made from mixed fibers. So we at Refresh Global have invented a system which knows how to take it, separate into the synthetic and natural parts, and these free outputs then can be applied in over 14 different industries. Let's look at some examples. So the recent pulp, which is the sanitized synthetic fibers, are now becoming new fibers, new yarn, which can go into the automotive industry in high quality materials. And as you see, we're already selling to Volkswagen and Mercedes. It's just one example. And then everything that is natural turns into composite materials that can replace plastics. And from the leftovers, we can even create ethanol. You're looking at the world's first perfume made from textile waste. So we are already commercial in our 3rd year, but you know what? The story is much bigger. We're now becoming recognized by governments. We're receiving grants for governments of Germany, France, and others. And we have been invited to many stages in fashion and automotive to talk about what we do, and I'm also here today. And in the next step, the story is like this. We want to take those systems that know how to process the textile waste everywhere in the world. Why? Because textile waste is local, and it needs to be a local zero-waste solution wherever it is. So hopefully it will be also now right next to you, and we'll be able to help you treat your waste where we are. There are so many other great companies out there in the same field. What is different is that we're able to process and to offer the products for up to 50% less, and we can also handle much larger volumes. We have a great team supporting us, and all I have left to say is that I hope that you too will not want to see these pictures any longer and will vote for us, that we are here together for a better future.
Thank you, Vika. Let's give it up one more time for these incredible entrepreneurs pushing forward circular economy solutions. All right, in just a minute, we'll ask Ali and Ginger to contextualize what we've heard and get their thoughts on these pitches and these markets. But it's time for you, the audience, to vote for which startup you believe will accelerate the circular economy and have the most impact. So open up the event app, Whova, and go to Startups to Watch under the agenda. I recommend searching for it in the search bar. It's within Keynotes. And once you find it, click into Startups to Watch and click Polls. And again, vote for the startup that you choose. Voting is only open for the next 5 minutes, so do it now. I recommend doing it now. Thank you. All right, let's move into the conversation. I'm super excited to have you both here today, Ali and Ginger. Let's just jump into it. We don't have a lot of time. The last 100 days or so there's been a lot going on, a bit of whiplash, you might say, to say the least. And that affects startups in a real way. There's funding freezes, supply chain disruptions, tariffs, et cetera. But when we talked in the back room or on a prep call, I can't remember exactly when, you actually said this might be a moment of opportunity for circular economy startups. Tell us why.
So maybe, I know this audience is largely not both innovators and then also investors, and so maybe contextualizing where venture capital has been over the past couple of years is helpful quickly here. Over the course of 2019 to say 2022 or so, there was ample dry powder, which means plenty of money, going into early stage companies at valuations that were really, really high relative to what those businesses were doing at that time. Part of that was that a lot of generalist investors were coming and also making investments in these spaces, which is excellent because it means that we have more folks to partner with, and all investors want to have more folks around the table to be able to support the businesses that we're looking to scale. It also means that when those folks decided no longer to invest in these spaces over the course of the past, say, 12 to 18 months, a lot of that capital has felt like it's gone away from the industry. And so a lot of early stage companies today are looking at the ecosystem and saying, well, before I was talking to 100 investors and 10 of them were really, really excited and 5 of them chose to invest, and they did it at terms that were great for me. And now I'm talking to 200 investors and only 6 of them are even having a second conversation with me, and I can't actually get any of them over the line. And so the question is, what is the main driver for those things, and what does it mean for these innovators? And I think the reality is it means that this is a really unique time to be thinking about building businesses that function with capital as an adder for growth instead of capital as a precondition for survival. And all of the tailwinds that we've seen over the course of the past couple of months are also helping in that regard. So if you think about something like uncertainty around tariffs, most of the innovators that you saw speaking today are talking about solutions that are using a localized waste source. Those materials are not going to be subject to any sort of import tariffs or duties. And so if you can use this as an opportunity to say, hey, my product actually now is close to parity with what you're paying to bring something else into the country, that's a really interesting lever and opportunity for the conversations that you're having with potential customers, also with potential investors who could be folks like Ginger, who's investing on the corporate side.
Thanks, Ali. And Ali is moderating a panel today at 3 p.m. going a bit deeper into the subject. So, Ginger, over to you. You're a CVC investor, corporate venture capital group, so you invest on behalf of HG. And typically, CVCs aren't just investing capital. There's a strategic play. There's a partnership play with startups, either as customers or to facilitate pilots and so on. So there are a lot of corporates in the room. What's your advice for them? How should they think about working with or partnering with startups?
Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity here. Ali said it perfectly, that all these startups are trying to find new ways to make their dollars go further. And a great way is to partner with corporates. I mean, you've got startups that are looking for capital, they're looking for credibility, they're looking for customers, right? I say customers are more important than investors. We happen to be both. You as a corporate and us as a corporate are looking for agile innovation. Sometimes we're looking for things to move faster than they can move at the corporate pace. Sometimes we have limited resources in our R&D budgets. A great way to do that is to partner with a startup. As a former entrepreneur, I can attest to the fact that you can get a lot done with an entrepreneurial team in a very short period of time. They're very motivated, and it's really exciting. So not everyone has a corporate venture arm like we do, where you invest in areas that are strategic, like Circularity to the Heritage Group and our waste business. But there's a lot of opportunities for piloting, for even talking to entrepreneurs and helping them find that what's called product market fit early on in their journey. That will help them then get investment for both traditional and corporate venture capitalists.
Phenomenal. I wish we could dig in more. We don't have a lot of time, but I know you're facilitating a roundtable discussion on this topic today. So check that out. Okay, over to both of you. You can take it as you will. What struck you most about the startups you saw today pitching? What stood out to you? Your reflections.
Yeah. So I'll maybe start by saying the way that we at Closed Loop Partners and within our ventures team look at early stage companies is we take a materials first approach. And so that means that we're looking at organics, we're looking at textiles, we're looking at all of these input products that actually go across a lot of different industries. And so it was really inspiring about the group that we had on stage today as we got to see across all of those different material types and materials that are actually going into a lot of different end markets. And you could, across I think most of the presentations we saw, this is not just a product that's going into one market, it's going into many. And so that was something that I found particularly interesting and exciting.
Yeah. When evaluating startups, you also have to remember that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's like art, right? There's so many reasons. And so I picked out a little bit of each one. We had a lot of interesting IP and intellectual property, but then you had a company like Eat Cloud that had very strong social proof, which is also an important aspect when evaluating startups. You had Macrocycle with a pretty powerful tech approach. I'm a polymer chemist. I think that what they're doing is really different and interesting. No green premium is always a nice thing to hear on the investor side. Say from Aruna, there's big personal impact there, strong founder market fit. The CEO has a lot of background in biomedical and the areas in which she's working right now. Who's next? We'll go with Refresh because I remember that one next. Solving a big challenge. We all look at feedstock. Circular economy. They're solving one of the biggest challenges of feedstock and the fact that they can take a wide variety of textiles, and that was pretty exciting there. And then last, Renegade. I think this replacement of sort of bad actor materials has a lot of potential for strong market adoption, and so time to get into market is a big thing that we consider on the venture side.
Perfect. Thank you. So the results are in, and can you give me a drum roll, please? The winner of Startups to Watch at Circularity 25 is Aruna. Congratulations to Aruna. Congratulations to all the startups that pitched today. Thank you to Ginger and Ali for sharing your insights. And we'll see you later. Back to you, John.
All right. Oh, there it is. All right, moving on from that amazing group of startup innovators to an innovator working within one of the largest tech companies in the world. Ray Bonatao is director and program manager at X, the moonshot factory within Google. He's a materials scientist and a serial entrepreneur. He's co-founded and commercialized and scaled a bunch of companies. He also led the team that created and developed the materials used in the first recyclable wind blade. So Ray has a wealth of really interesting knowledge in this space. He's also an advisor and investor in several sustainable startups. I'm incredibly excited to hear Ray's take on falling in love with the problem here today to close out our keynote program. So please help me in welcoming Ray Bonatao from Google to the stage.
All right, how we doing? We're almost there. First of all, shout out to the startups. They had 2.5 minutes to tell everyone, yeah. I've been in their shoes. To tell everyone how you're going to save the planet in 2.5 minutes is a tall order. I get 8 minutes. Hopefully they won't cut out my mic. So first of all, thank you, John, and thank you, Trellis Group, for having me here. I'm Ray Bonatow. I'm a director and project lead at X, the Moonshot Factory. You might have, in case you hadn't heard of us, we used to be called Google X. For a while, we were just called X. Elon Musk kind of messed up that branding for us, so we go by X, the Moonshot Factory. Our job at X, the Moonshot Factory, is to invent and launch moonshot projects that are going to make the world a radically better place. One of our core principles at X is, and we have a few, but I'm just going to talk about this one, is to fall in love with the problem. And so I'm going to share with you my personal journey working in climate, in materials, and sustainability, and how I fell in love with the problem of solving plastic waste. Now, you don't get to the moon in one shot, right? These are long journeys. You're going to have ups and downs, especially if you're doing this through the lens of startups. So you need some inspiration for that long journey. I'm your stereotypical California kid. I grew up in that Volkswagen van up there, going up and down the West Coast from Mexico up to Canada with my family, learning how to ski, skateboard, surf, snowboard, all of that. And you can't help when you sit in nature and fully immersed in it and you look back, say at the coastline, and you're surfing next to nuclear power plants or refineries. And it really sinks in. You have to wonder what your impact is on the environment, what our impact is as humans on the environment. And so that wonder has always remained with me. That is my inspiration. So I'm a biochemist by training. I've gone through a lot of schooling and research. I learned how to develop new materials using biology, chemistry, computer science. But it was my engineer father who encouraged me to explore entrepreneurship. And the one piece of advice he gave me, which still sticks with me today, is whatever you choose to do, whatever industry you work in, find a way to give back. Think about what your contribution is to that industry. So eventually, once I figured what I was going to try to do, started a startup, working in material science, ended up pivoting a few times, and just luckily landed on this idea of what if we could make better materials using better chemistries, using plant-based materials, plant-based chemistries. So me and my co-founder started a company called Entropy Resins. We ran that company for 10 years before we got acquired. A lot of learning, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of things we were proud of. We were early adopters in a lot of the metrics we use today in circularity to measure impacts of materials, life cycle assessments, certifications, ISO standards, what have you. The thing that I'm most proud of is that little SuperSap logo there. That sits on every single Burton snowboard around the world that's made. And usually it sits next to the FSC logo that represents sustainable wood. So that was really meaningful for us. And that represents all of the work it took to understand materials at that level of impact and communicate that to our customers so that they could communicate that to their customers. Proud to say that's still a thriving, growing brand today. And even under the new owners, we get to see that mission continue. But we still had more questions about materials. Even though we make great materials that have lower impact, we asked the next question, well, what happens to them? And I know we're all asking that question here. So we kind of started thinking, and we met a few more folks who could help us answer that question. Collectively, we started our next startup called Kenora Technologies. Kenora invented a new molecule, a new chemistry that could make that previous class of high-performance plastics used in sporting goods, building materials, windmill blades, recyclable for the first time. So that was a huge challenge, right? You're bringing a new material to market. You have to go through all the regulatory required to do that, not just invent a chemical. You have to manufacture at scale and cost. A lot of learnings there. But what we realized was that this application, the recyclable wind blade, was the wind industry had already undergone regulation at least once for its choice of materials. So as these first composite material blades were coming offline, the industry didn't know what to do. They were burying them in the desert. So we figured out this is where we need to contribute. And so we worked with the industry, we worked with government-funded research to figure out how to take this new material to market. After figuring out how to do the chemistry and get it to scale, eventually our partner who was manufacturing for us, Aditya Birla Chemicals, said, you know what, we're just going to take the whole thing and we're going to keep scaling it. So they bought us. Eventually by 2021, they worked with Siemens Gamesa to make the first recyclable wind blade. Now, that was my first experience on a moonshot journey, where I realized how long this stuff really takes. It took us 5 years to create a new chemistry and get it to some kind of appreciable manufacturing scale with a roadmap to cost. It took another 5 years to get those pilot plants up and running. They're doing this at hundreds of metric ton scale now, enough to make windmill blades, but we're still, as an industry, figuring out how to recycle these things. So there's still a long way to go to get to the moon, to get for this moonshot. So at this point, I've completely gotten addicted to solving these types of problems, material challenges, sustainability. I found my mission, right? It's to make things better. Make better materials, make better products, make things better for people and the planet. I'm completely head over heels in solving this problem. And so when I was looking for my next challenge, I learned about what we're all more familiar with here in this room, which is thermoplastic packaging waste, right? This is not quite the same plastic used to make things like windmill blades, but it has more scale and more persistence, as we all well know. And so I wanted to figure out how to solve this. So luckily, I found myself at X, the Moonshot Factory. I get to work with some super talented, really smart people. Hopefully, you're all familiar with one of the first moonshots that we started at X, Waymo, the self-driving car. That's been around that was a 15-year journey. They're getting there. They're almost there. You can actually book self-driving rides in some major cities around the world. But if you think about all those systems it takes to engineer that, the AI, the compute, the data, the sensors, what could you do with that if you start applying that to tackle the world's biggest challenges, including waste? So I'm really pleased to share with you and announce, X's Moonshot for Circularity, the project that I have the honor of leading. Our vision here is to reimagine what it looks like to have a world without waste. Not that we wouldn't consume or generate and consume materials, but we want to figure out a way to accelerate the revaluing of that waste, get it back economically into the system so we minimize extraction. And we want to do that for all materials. So what's our breakthrough here? We are looking at ways to unlock the value of molecules. So we're developing a full technology stack, hardware, sensors, AI, all the data and the platform to manage materials at the molecular level. I believe circularity is a systems problem. We all wouldn't be here if we didn't also believe that. So this platform that we're building, we hope has something for everyone in terms of the types of data that we're going to unleash with a molecular view of materials. I've completely run out of time, so I encourage you to please come to our session. I think it's in Bluebird 3A at 1:30, and we'll tell you more about how we're applying these breakthrough technologies to solve at least one area of materials and plastic waste. That's films and flexibles. We're tackling that with our partner Dow. So I'll leave you with this. Look, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we all have agency to solve circularity together. And it is a systems problem. We're all going to have to participate. We're all going to have to invest. You don't just need scientists or technologists to solve these problems. We need policymakers. We need educators. We need business people. We need lawyers to work together to solve this. So if you fall in love with the problem the way I have, please work with us. We'll be here to team up with you. Thank you.
I got one. I'm good. All right, we are 2 minutes over, so I'm gonna hustle to get you out of here for lunch. Thank you to all of our speakers today. I think those startups, as well as what Ray communicated, is so inspiring. Hopefully everybody else has an idea about how you can move through the world now. With that, our keynote program has come to a close. We've got a lot more workshops, a lot more breakouts. Enjoy your lunch. And here's some upcoming fun for today. We've got networking reception tonight immediately after the breakouts. And the patio is going to be beautiful tonight, so you can go out on the terrace. For those of you who have attended the last 2 Circularity events, we had dueling pianos in Seattle in 23, live band karaoke in Chicago last year, and now we're combining them. So across the street, we will have live band, or live dueling piano karaoke. For those of you who were there last year, I will not be able to sing because of what's going on here. Also, to our live stream audience, thanks again for joining us. Please stick around for the interviews that Katie and Sabira are going to be having on the side stage. And I hope to see you all at the party tonight, and thanks for coming to Circularity. Have a good lunch.
Do you want to start again? You're doing something.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you can lead with the content.
Yeah. Perfect.
Welcome back, live streamers, from an amazing day 2 keynote session and the startups to watch. And we got the winner, Aruna. That's very cool to see. What was your experience?
You know, I love the startups to watch because they bring like big energy.
Yeah.
I thought the interview right before with Brian Lewis also was a great perspective on what it takes to go out and learn new things and try new things and be open-minded to giving folks a chance and all the ways to be involved. I feel like I don't spend enough time providing resources to education.
Yeah.
And that's just a great reminder for that, not just inclusion, but belonging that Brian was talking about.
And that's what connects us. I actually think that goes back to the opening. I mean, when the folks at Trove were talking about storytelling.
Yes.
And that's really what we need to be doing more and more of, is the bringing the human nature to life and hearing from the 2 folks on stage and their journeys. That's the human impact.
Yeah.
And we get to see that while we're here, which is great. But it's hard to get that story out beyond.
Yeah,
So.
which is like funny, right? Because we're like just humans being humans, talking to humans.
Yeah.
You would think we'd be like a little bit more evolved.
We're not that great.
We're not that
we
evolved.
can be better. We can be better.
Well, speaking of ways to be better, we get to interview 4 really wonderful people
Amazing,
today. So I'm glad to have everybody in the live stream back with us. We've got some show and tell.
Yes. Multiple show and tell.
Multiple show and tells.
Yeah.
We've got some leaders from corporate and from nonprofit. I mean, it's going to be good.
It's exciting.
I'm going to be so much smarter in about 20 minutes.
I know. And then it gives like a dose of and a hit of inspiration.
Yeah,
which we
it's
really
nice.
love. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a quick minute.
Yep. See you soon.
Keynote is the easiest way for companies of all sizes to purchase a portfolio of high-integrity carbon credits. Join other leaders in offsetting your emissions with highly rated carbon reduction and removal credits, all in a matter of minutes. Let Keynote do the hard work for you.
We are the future. Hear us. It's our tomorrow you're building today. When you create technology, put us at its heart. Act now for nature, the planet, and for us. Be confident. Do not allow the future to shape you. Shape it, and shape it for the better. If not for yourselves, for us.
Welcome, Ashley. We have Ashley Fahey here on the sustainability team at Kohler. It's so great to have you.
So great to be here.
luckily, we have gotten to run into each other a few times before today's interview, and that's one of the things I love about this like small circular world that we live in, and that we're
a lot of
at.
bumping.
There is a lot of bumping around in the good good ways.
Yeah. Yes.
But I want to get into your show and tell, but before we do that, you and I were talking about Kohler and how it got its beginnings. Yes. And so I'm really could you tell that story again about like their first product and
Yeah, of course. So many people don't know that Kohler is still a privately held family-run company. David Kohler is our CEO. Laura Kohler is our Chief Sustainable Living Officer. But Kohler got its start over 150 years ago in 1873 when John Michael Kohler took a horse trough, a cast iron horse trough. They were originally in the farm implements business. And he figured out the process to put an enamel layer on that to make it a little bit more of a gracious experience, put 4 legs on it, and that became our very first Kohler cast iron bathtub. And we were in the bathroom industry. And rumor is that first bathtub sold for 2 cows and 14 chickens. That's what they say.
The price of a warm bath.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd absolutely pay that.
And we're still in the cast iron business today. We have lots of cast iron bathtubs, kitchen sinks, and bathroom sinks, which are, by the way, 80% or more recycled materials, most of which is coming from 100 miles of our Kohler, Wisconsin foundry. And it's a very circular material, too. It's one of my favorite materials to work with.
Has sustainability been a part of Kohler? Obviously the story is very sustainable. When was the sustainability team? When did you guys get a sustainability team?
So we've been working on sustainability for decades now, and we were among the first, companies to set an ambitious net zero target for greenhouse gas emissions back in 2008. I joined the team 3.5 years ago, so I don't have all the background on when the team was initially formed, but I can tell you that the Kohler family takes sustainability very seriously, and again, they have for decades. So we've been making investments. In fact, our operational impacts, greenhouse gas emissions, water, and waste to landfill, since 2008, we've reduced intensity of all 3 of those by almost 2/3.
Wow.
Okay, great. So let's get into how that came to be, because you and I were talking about the waste lab.
Yes.
And tell me more about how that feeds into everything.
Yeah, so obviously we've made a lot of investments across manufacturing to reduce all of those 3 key areas I just mentioned. But one of them is waste to landfill, right? We want to reduce that as much as possible. But we realize that as a manufacturer, sometimes we encounter wastes from our operations that we just don't have a good solution for, right? There's not a good recycler in place. So that was the foundation of the Kohler Waste Lab. It was an Innovation for Good initiative. The associates brought this forward and said, we really think that we should find another use for these materials. And so in 2014, they brought that forward. We got to work on identifying all of those waste streams that were hard to recycle, we didn't have a good solution for, and then our material experts got to work on figuring out what we could do with those materials to put them to a higher use, a better use, instead of sending them to a landfill. So I have some examples of the materials here.
Cool.
These are our Kohler Waste Lab samples. So a little hard to see maybe, but these are samples of green cull. So when we create a toilet or a sink made from our vitreous china material, if it has a malfunction, any kind of defect, and it doesn't meet our quality standards, we have to scrap it, right?
Yes.
But instead of just throwing it away, we can break this material down and use it.
Cool.
Same thing with our filter cake. We process this material through, all of our wastewater goes through filters to make sure we're not discharging any of that, sort of sludge. And we take that filter cake that's created, the leftover materials, and also turn it into a raw material for us. So we've got a couple more here, including one from our cast iron foundry. This is slag scraped from molten cast iron, basically the impurities that float to the top when you melt cast iron. And we've broken those down and made them really fine into almost a powder. Together, these materials and a couple of others like foundry sand and foundry dust can be combined to create beautiful tile products. So we produce both kitchen and bathroom tiles. We have 4 different lines available in the Kohler Waste Lab collection. And we also just launched our first Kohler Waste Lab sink. It's a bathroom sink, like a vessel sink that sits on top of your sink, made with about 70% waste materials, whereas our tiles are made with about 99.5% waste materials.
Okay, so we're talking about these materials that are in the jars, but I heard another material, and that is water. So yes. Obviously you've got like water flowing through all of these beautiful appliances, and water that is, like you mentioned, filtering through these things. And I know you've been involved in the 50-liter home project. So can we go to water? Tell
Sure.
us about how water connects.
Of course, I'm very passionate about water, and we are at Kohler. So yeah, we are founding members of the 50 Liter Home Coalition. That coalition was formed after this Cape Town, South Africa Day Zero event. They were afraid they were going to run out of municipal water given the
Yes.
severe drought they were facing. I think that was 2018. So the 50 Liter Home Coalition formed an international organization made up of companies and other NGOs, nonprofits, to help combat these, water scarcity and climate change. So our goal is to get to a household use of water of 50 liters, or about 13 gallons, per person per day, including everything, washing, drinking, irrigation, bathing, things like that. So we just completed a Los Angeles pilot program. We had 31 homes participating. These are already somewhat water efficient mindset homeowners. And half of those homes, about 15 or 16, we actually retrofitted with more water efficient faucets, fixtures, and appliances to see, if we just change out those things and with the behavior staying the same, how much water can we save? So what we found in phase 2 with those water efficient appliances is that we saved about 21%, so over a fifth of the water consumption compared to the control group. Now phase 3 of the pilot, which we just installed products for in February of this year, are going even further, right? We're installing even more water efficient faucets, shower heads, toilets, and some other consumables and appliances. And we're going to see how low we can go while providing an exceptional experience. That's super important because nobody's going to want these products if they don't perform well. So we are keeping that front of mind as we make these.
Pressure.
Yeah, I mean the shower head is like, that's an
Yes, it's a very experiential space.
It is.
It's very personal.
Yes. One other question real quick for you, which is, you have been traveling and you have been speaking at this event. Do you have like a aha thing that has happened for you over this last week? What's your nugget? Because our live stream viewers don't get to be
Sure.
in our shoes.
I'll give you a nugget that I've shared at a couple of the other events I've spoken at, and that is that we have a lot of outdated toilets that are still installed across the U.S. today. We have about 9 million 5-gallon per flush toilets, 52 million 3.5-gallon per flush toilets, and over 216 million 1.6-gallon per flush toilets. If we were to switch those all to 1.28 tomorrow, we would save about 1 trillion gallons of water across this country on an annual basis, and about $13 billion in utilities.
Redo your bathrooms, people.
Yes.
That's right.
Ashley, thank you. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate you having me.
When I think about environmental justice, for me, it involves 3 cornerstones: people, policy, and practice.
I want to thank everyone at Verge and everyone who's part of this conference for the work that you're doing to innovate and advance climate solutions.
Electrification is the abundance agenda. It's good economic policy. It's good for our communities. It's good for our health.
1 year ago, Amazon launched its first custom all-electric Rivian delivery van.
I'm John Davies. I've led the network for the past 15 years, and there are more than 160 companies that are participating.
Without supporting our racial, cultural, and socioeconomic diversity, we cannot hope to address the myriad of challenges that lay ahead of us.
CNOT is the easiest way for companies of all sizes to purchase a portfolio of high-integrity carbon credits. Join other leaders in offsetting your emissions with highly rated carbon reduction and removal credits, all in a matter of minutes. Let CNOT do the hard work for you.
Welcome back, live stream viewers. Thank you for joining us. And we get to talk to Irada Oleta. I'm so excited. We got to meet this morning, which is really great. You are an emerging leader with Circularity, and you're the founder of the Chip Bag Project. We talked this morning about a story of a brand dropping 100,000 pounds of Mylar on your front door. Tell us a little bit.
Holy moly.
And without telling her.
Yeah, I mean, drop on your front door. I kind of picked that up.
That's wild. So, but you work at you founded the Chip Bag Project. You have great ways of using that Mylar. Tell us about what that would turn into and how you've used it.
Yeah, Mylar is I
kind of fondly say I'm not a big fan of plastic, but if I was to pick one, it would always be Mylar.
Yeah.
It's very lightweight and it's very versatile. And one of the things that we've been able to do is make it into a sleeping bag. So imagine something that is warm, it self-reflects, it's lightweight, it's also waterproof. This is something that is not just what we give to people to say, hey, have an opportunity to be outside in the cold, but it's also a way for you to rethink your relationship with trash. We've been able to turn our Mylar into tote bags, like freezer bags, into wallets. We make a little cool, funky hat out of it. And there are just multiple things that we can do. And Mylar is one of those products that almost every single industry is using currently. And if we're able to give people a moment to reimagine what you could do with this, that's what Chip Bag Project is all about.
So talk to us a little bit about that human health impact. Especially for the sleeping bags,
Yeah.
there's like two things come to mind. How do you know, or how does the materials industry know that it can keep you warm outside? That's kind of part one. And then what does that mean for human health for folks who need that kind of protection?
Yeah, so one of the things that I always tell people about Chip Bag story, like the origin story, is I was never going to give somebody something I've never tried before. And I even decided that I was going to make this into a sleeping bag. I started to see pictures of people with emergency blankets over their bodies when they come out the water, and exactly why people would put that on them. And then thought to myself, okay, if we're going to make this into a sleeping bag, what is the harshest conditions that we can possibly test this out so we can know it really works? So on a very, very cold day, -5 degrees, in the snow, there's a video on our social media if you want to watch me sleep outside in the snow in our Chip bag. And I was able to test that out, and I slept outside for a little over like 6 hours. And I'm somebody who is anemic, so like I get cold extremely quickly. And it worked. And when it worked, I kind of just sat in the back for a bit and was like, we might have something, you know, we just might have something.
Yeah.
And now when we give this sleeping bag, when I gave my very first sleeping bag out to someone, the first thing he said to me was, and you want me to do what?
Yeah.
And I was like, I want you to hop in the bag and
Be a chip.
you know, just try it out a little bit, you know, imagination circle. And what I had to do was show him my video, because in order for you to trust me, you also have to know that at times I'm able to take a leap of faith on my ideas too as well. So when I showed him the video, he was like, okay, I'll trust you, but now I don't know. And when he got into it, we do have a padding inside of our sleeping bag. It is quite comfortable. And it's also something that immediately when you get inside of it, you get warm. Cool. And that was the first thing he said to me. He was like, I'm actually warm. I'm like, I told you.
Yeah.
But I, with the Chip bags, we also have to know that, again, it's a trust exercise. If I tell you have a Chip bag sleeping bag, the first thing you're going to do is,
Yeah.
and right, but when somebody sees it, when somebody interacts with it, they're able to know that, okay, this is actually something that works.
Yeah. And what kind of impact has that had? You're from Detroit. What has that had locally and even nationally?
Yeah, so since we launched, we've been able to collect 2.5 million pounds of Mylar from the entire world. So we don't collect from just Detroit, we collect from as far as Singapore. And it's been something that we're seeing international need. And it started off as just a good feel project. We just wanted to provide sleeping bags. I fondly tell people I wanted to launch this for about 6 months and make 100 sleeping bags. And then a couple of days in, I'm on CNN. And then like about a year into it, I have 1 million pounds. And I'm just sitting there like, I kind of did something, Mom. And so this has been something that we've seen impact people's thinking, right? So when I was a teacher, this project and working with Mylar was how my students will always challenge me, because we started recycling programs. It would be like, Miss Arata, what do we do with the chips? And I will always sit there like, let's make a ring, let's make a wallet, let's make a bracelet. But now with this, my young people are able to now think even further past the limitation of just a creative application, but how do we do this on a worldwide need application as well?
That's amazing that the source is so wide.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about where, not just geographically the source is, but who is sending you material, what kind of like variety, where is it generated?
Yeah.
And some of the challenges we talked about, some people don't listen to instructions.
Yes.
So what does that mean for you?
we collect from corporations. We have a school program where we collect from schools, local businesses, and households. And one of the things that have made collecting almost 3 million pounds of foil is the fact that we have to clean some of it, because people have this funny, I feel like it's a little trick, but you're like, hey, Arata, you're going to clean this bag. Maybe you want to eat some. And we always get a couple of bags or a box of bags that still have chips inside of them or still have something. We also collect bird food bags, so we get bird food in there sometimes. And it's just always a thing that I sit in my room and I'm picking a chip from my hair or like have a chip on the floor and I'm just like, but I said you should clean it. I have a video on the website on how to clean it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great thing that we're being able to see so many different kinds of people in so many different places want to interact with. We also have corporate partnership and team days where people get to use this as a team builder too as well. So it's something that almost every single person in every single area of life can interact with in some capacity.
That's amazing. Okay. We wanted to make these fun, so we have a little Mad Lib for you. You don't have to fill in the blank with one word, but with the time we have left, fill in the blank. Circular opportunities are right under our nose. We should be looking at
everything.
Yeah.
Question everything. Question everything.
Okay.
Yes.
You are an emerging leader in circularity. You wished experienced leaders in the industry would blank.
Invest more.
Ooh. Dollars, time?
Everything. Invest your knowledge, invest your time, and invest your dollars, because it's very necessary, especially when young people want to figure out what to do next.
Amazing. Yeah. You're from Detroit, but your family's from Lagos?
Yes, I'm born in Lagos, Nigeria, and I love to tell people I'm a Nigerian American. We're still figuring out, but I'm mostly a Detroiter right now.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us and bringing you here.
We are the future. Hear us. It's our tomorrow you're building today. When you create technology, put us at its heart. Act now for nature, the planet, and for us. Be confident. Do not allow the future to shape you. Shape it, and shape it for the better. If not for yourselves, for us.
Keynote is the easiest way for companies of all sizes to purchase a portfolio of high-integrity carbon credits. Join other leaders in offsetting your emissions with highly rated carbon reduction and removal credits, all in a matter of minutes. Let Keynote do the hard work for you.
Either way.
Welcome back, live streamers. We're very excited to welcome Julia Marsh, CEO of Sway, and the manufacturer of biomaterials and packaging from seaweed. You brought some show and tell, so let's get started with, tell us, what are we looking at?
Well, I thought it was important to bring the biomaterials into the conference. So this is seaweed, wet, smelly seaweed.
Let's give it a sniff.
From the ocean. It was
the bay.
It was responsibly farmed in the ocean. Seaweed is like our hero ingredient because it's really good for the ocean, it's really good for coastlines, and then it's also really rich in natural polymers. And that's what this powder is. So this powder comes from inside that seaweed, and it's what gives seaweed its stretchy quality. And then using that polymer, we blend it together with other plants to create pellets.
Other plants.
And these pellets are the way that normal plastic manufacturers, make just about everything. So it allows us to play in the system that already exists and take advantage of existing manufacturing to create all kinds of different products, including this bag that we've designed for the fashion industry.
Amazing. And this is a fun-looking...
That squiggle is the precursor to the pellet. So the way it comes out is a lot like spaghetti, and then they chop it up into the pellets.
Amazing. Yeah. So seaweed, of course, from our oceans, Tell us about what that means for nature and biodiversity to be relying on this material and not fossil fuels.
Yeah, the beauty of working with seaweed is you get to invest in the ocean and work in partnership with the ecosystem. So the reason I was drawn to seaweed, one is it's just super abundant. It grows on every coastline in the world, really diverse, 10,000 plus species. And as it's growing, it's not resource intensive. So we get to move away from some of those resource intensive feedstocks and towards no fresh water, no land, no pesticides, no feeding. It's just growing, and it's growing really quickly, like 20 to 30 times faster than corn or sugarcane. So lots of resource efficiency, and then also lots of benefits for the ocean as it's growing.
That's amazing. And you have customers in fashion, but we also talked about having customers in food. What does that mean for people to know that what they're interacting with is more natural than plastic?
Yeah, I think a lot of us have kind of a visceral reaction to plastics now. It's no longer, is plastic bad? People know that. We're learning more and more the multitude of ways it's bad through the toxins as well as the microplastics that make their way into our bodies. So I think using seaweed is a way to kind of cut through the noise and say, we were so thoughtful as we designed these materials. And not only is it good for the planet, but it's also good for you to be interfacing with this material. And the brands that are working with us get to claim that. They say, we were thoughtful about the sweater that you're putting on your body and the thing that it came packaged in. Like, we're really thinking about you.
Do you have a customer story? I think maybe somebody who made cookies, what we talked about.
My favorite customers right now are, first, our manufacturing partners, which has been vital, and I think is like the playbook that all companies in this space should be working with, is partner with the legacy industry, partner with the manufacturers who know how to make this at speed and at scale. So Eco Enclose is the primary customer of Sway that's bringing these bags to the market right now, based here in Denver. They've been incredible, very patient with us. And then they bring this packaging to brands like Faraday, Prana, Alex Crane, Florence, who again are like really trying to complete that story of circularity in both their clothing as well as their packaging.
Amazing. And so now you're at this point where you have kind of this proof of concept and you have customers. Tell us about where your company is at and where you want to take it.
This is the year we commercialize. It's big stuff. Yeah.
Go, baby, go.
We got over that hump of inventing the thing, which was incredibly hard to do. Because again, we're designing with biology for systems that have been optimized over 100 years for the fossil fuel industry. And so that was really, really hard. It took us 3+ years to figure that out.
Are you a scientist?
No. It would be helpful if I was a scientist. I work with amazing scientists. The Sway team is made up of some of the best engineers and scientists you'll meet. But no, I'm a designer by trade.
So you're thinking about that end result of what they were inventing this material and how it's going to be.
I'm thinking about how can we switch both sides of the story, so we're not working with extractive materials, we're moving towards generous regenerative materials. And then after this material has been used, can it return to nature and complete that loop of biological circularity? And that's what I love. This is a design challenge.
This is a design
challenge. It can be solved.
Yeah. And so we have a fill in the blank for you.
Okay.
We've been trying this fun thing. In Circularity, we talk a lot about end of life. So end of life to you is blank.
Oh, I really loved what McDonough was saying earlier about end of use. I think about, can materials replenish life from their origin until after their use? So end of life to me is, can we design materials that are actively replenishing soil health, the source of almost all our food?
Yes.
and can humanity through design be contributing to that healthier system, which was a theme that was, pulled on yesterday as well. I loved that.
It's like return to life instead of like end of life.
Return to life.
Because especially when it comes to products like yours, right? Because like this is actually a living thing. That I love that vision.
Yeah. How can we, I love the idea that by investing in biological circularity, you get to check lots of boxes, especially by working with diverse feedstocks. Like seaweed is the best example, in my opinion, but there are so many generous materials that just by existing from the beginning are good, like using agricultural waste or mushrooms or pea protein or seaweed. And then you get to take those nutrients and bring them to compost, create healthy soil, and hopefully also support our efforts around getting organic material out of landfill and into compost systems. And so you're supporting ocean health and you're supporting healthy soil by working with these materials.
So as we wrap up our time together, what call to action do you have for our live streamers? What do you want from them or even from other folks at the conference? What are you hoping to achieve this week?
I think one is give compostables a chance. Policymakers, if you're tuning in, AB 1201 would be really cool if we could include compostable materials in compost end of life and get them organic approved. And brands, give compostables a chance too. This is a great way to tell your story and showcase your commitment to healthier people and a healthier planet.
Amazing. Thank you, Julia Marsh, for joining us. If you make anything that is wrapped in anything, please check out Sway.
Please do.
Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
When I think about environmental justice, for me, it involves three cornerstones: people, policy, and practice.
And I want to thank everyone at Verge and everyone who's part of this conference for the work that you're doing to innovate and advance climate solutions.
Electrification is the abundance agenda. It's good economic policy. It's good for our communities. It's good for our health.
1 year ago, Amazon launched its first custom all-electric Rivian delivery van.
I'm John Davies. I've led the network for the past 15 years, and there are more than 160 companies that are participating.
Without supporting our racial, cultural, and socioeconomic diversity, we cannot hope to address the myriad of challenges that lay ahead of us.
Welcome back. We've got one more interview for you, and I am with Alicia Grummel-Lemetz from Materium. You are a researcher, you are a PhD, you are a Rhodes Scholar.
Wow, you go, girl.
Does your child self, did she know that this is where she was headed?
I wasn't expecting that as an opener. No, I appreciate that. I've always been really, really clear on the kind of passions that drive me, and right from a young age, my mom really instilled in me a love of nature and like a passion to do something about it. So I've really always looked for opportunities for impact in that way, and it's been quite a journey to find how that passion really can be channeled for impact in a way that is a mode of self-expression, but also like builds into like a team around me and my co-CEO Liz, who's also here at Circularity, and that has been the biggest gift, is not just kind of focusing on your own personal passion, but actually channeling that through like a team that really has the ability to change things. So it's been a journey to get here, but and we're just beginning, really.
Yes, well, that was the other thing. Like, you're clearly far from done. So I'm wondering, like, what your next comma after all those things. You'll have to come back and we'll add some more. I wanted to talk a little bit, of course, about Materium. Nonprofit, I have questions about that. Open source, all about biomaterial and kind of like the recipes for biomaterial products.
Yes.
How else would you describe what Materium does?
So Materium is really an innovation platform to speed up the R&D of companies that are developing alternatives to plastics in textiles as well as packaging in the built environment, really trying to get good materials that are healthy for the planet into our market at scale and at pace. Because right now it takes around 20 years and 100 million to get a new material at scale in our market. And that's just way too slow for the crisis that we're in. So at Materium, we provide open data and AI solutions to help innovators all over the planet find their first material recipes in our open commons and then iteratively develop it in order to overcome challenges on performance and manufacturability to get these materials into the hands of consumers.
Do you have an example of a company that has done that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you just interviewed Sway.
Yes.
Sway's here profiling their amazing commercial breakthrough with their polybag with fashion brands. That's a company that has gone and is on that journey to commercial scale up. A company that that got their start on Materium is Curie. It's a company that actually works to turn food waste into the rubber for the soles of shoes. And they found their first recipe on Materium and then iteratively created a now poised for commercial scale-up material with a major sporting goods brand. So that's really exciting to watch as well. And you see these, we're really in an exciting time in the bio-based material space where you see a kind of growing ecology or like ecosystem of solutions that are starting to not only get their start, but achieving this kind of commercial breakthrough. And we need to do that more and more and really focus on that.
So are you seeing, what's your mix of organizations you're like pulling into Materium versus like those that are like pounding on your door? What's your balance of those?
So we support a community of over 20,000 material innovators across 90 countries. So it's a very broad spectrum of innovators working on material development. That includes researchers and students who get their start by figuring out, how to first work with a recipe and then start to build a team and a company around them. And they actually mature into the startups and then scale-ups that we're seeing in today's market. And we see that approach to growing the market and really creating a groundswell of innovators as key to our theory of change. So we work across that spectrum of innovation to really give and equip the next generation or the current generation of innovators to cross into, to go from, those spin-outs into commercial scale-ups.
I like that so much. We asked this question on the main stage yesterday, and I thought it was wonderful, which was, what's a common misconception in your space? And so maybe that's a misconception with the materials or how you get from identifying the recipe to implementing it. What are some common, corrections that you are seeing organizations make?
Well, one of the misconceptions that is out there is the idea that natural materials are not necessarily high performance, and that is something that is really not true. It's indicative of the fact that we are up against 100 years of R&D in petroleum chemicals that have optimized and found the high performing formulations with that set of chemicals. We are really just getting going in the natural material space. And what's exciting is that we have now the opportunity to fast track our R&D and our search for high performance materials with these natural polymers and natural compounds because of technology like AI, and we can now fast track and find those needles in the haystack that are really going to be the next generation of materials that meet the needs of lots of different market applications and consumer brands. But that's a misconception that we're aiming to overcome rapidly by equipping these innovators with those tools to find high performance natural materials faster and get them to market.
Okay, so if you could go knock on the door of someone who has this misconception that natural materials are not as strong, and you're just wrong. They're better. What sector, what industry, what product is ripe for this that is sleeping on the opportunity that is available now?
That's a great question. There's so many because we really do need to radically transform our material world if we have a hope of reversing the plastics pollution crisis we're in and the linked up climate crisis that relates to the petroleum industry that really is linked to both energy and materials. I would say really clear application spaces are single-use packaging. That's one of the biggest culprits, and natural materials can meet those needs. We just need to get these market solutions into the hands of consumers and demonstrate that, and that's happening, but it needs to happen faster. And for anyone I would knock on the door of, it's like, get behind this, because this can happen if we put enough muscle and time and attention and resources into it. So that's a low-hanging fruit that is really there for the taking. Also, fast fashion is something that in the textile space, so, the clothes we wear, not this thankfully, but there's a lot of materials that we wear that are plastic.
Yes. Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
And we wear plastic all the time, and that sheds microplastics into our water. We drink it. It's in our bloodstreams. That's something where the development of natural textiles that are, for instance, protein-based from food waste or from amazing kind of alternative leathers, that can be something that we focus on.
A lot of applications. Thank you so much for sharing all of them with us.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Liz. Shout out, Liz.
Yes.
Keynote is the easiest way for companies of all sizes to purchase a portfolio of high-integrity carbon credits. Join other leaders in offsetting your emissions with highly rated carbon reduction and removal credits, all in a matter of minutes. Let Keynote do the hard work for you.
We are the future. Hear us. It's our tomorrow you're building today. When you create technology, put us at its heart. Act now for nature, the planet, and for us. Be confident. Do not allow the future to shape you. Shape it, and shape it for the better. If not for yourselves, for us.
Live streamers, that is it from Sabira and myself. It was so fun to be here with you.
Lovely.
We really enjoyed talking to these people. How was your experience live streaming?
Normally in podcasting, we don't do things live, so I think I learned a lot about the mechanics and also just having to keep the energy and feeding off of everybody here we're talking to, but also in the room has been really lovely. And podcasting, it's all remote, so feels a little bit that's distant, and this is up close and personal.
Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe like more live audience.
Yeah, more human.
For you.
I might be a late night host or something.
I mean,
with you.
Yeah, okay. I'm sold now. Well, you can catch this live stream again. Thanks to we don't have time for hosting the live stream and the keynotes. You can catch those all on YouTube, of course, for forever. So send the clips that are meaningful to you, and especially the ones that have action items for the folks in your sector. It's a great opportunity to say, like, go check out Minute 24, where we talk about compostable products and how that is possible now. Our next live stream will be this fall. Trellis Impact 25 is coming. And so that will be in the fall, and you can catch content around Verge, Bloom, and Greenfin. And it's going to be good too.
Wow, that's coming. Fall is almost soon. It's going to be here really quick.
Soon enough. Yeah.
But I think also all of the guests that we had were really open to collaboration and encourage that. So if you're out there watching, I think reaching out is definitely like the best thing to do. And I remember Jaden said, if you have something you want from manufacturers, ask for it. So those are small, real things that you can do if you're not here at the conference that you can do at home and be part of the movement.
Yep.
I really love.
Well, thank you for the team who helped make this possible. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, Vera.
Thanks, Katie.